Adventures in Supply Chain podcast is pleased to announce the Coronavirus and Supply Chain series to help our communities with the insights of outstanding leaders in supply chain and in other critical functions. These challenging times are also for transformations and opportunities. We will get through this together, and we will make it happen. It's our pleasure to introduce Jill Robbins. Jill is an entrepreneur and Senior Director of Global Procurement, Indirect Goods and Services at Elanco. Elanco is a global animal health company. Jill leads a global team responsible for over $1.5 billion spent across indirect goods and services categories. Jill is responsible for driving innovative category strategies across information technology, marketing and sales, G&A, and R&D by delivering sustainable value, supplier innovation, and margin growth. Passionate about productivity and technology automation, Jill is among the top 20 global supply chain and B2B thought leaders. She is also an author and speaker. And now with you, your host, Marcia, and her amazing guest, Jill Robbins.
Good morning, Jill. A pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for making some time in your busy schedule, in particular during this challenging time.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, Marcia. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And we would like to know you as a leader of an important organization. What are you and your team doing differently in these times, right? Something that you are doing now that you weren't doing before.
Yeah, so I think that, we're listening more to our internal stakeholders, listening more to our suppliers, so that we can be a partner of choice, because it really is becoming a seller's market, whether that be in technology, indirect goods and services, or on the direct side of the business. So I really think it's critical to be collaborative and to listen during this time.
Yes, that's a great point, right? To have all the functions and listening from our customers, from our suppliers, so you are totally right. And you mentioned technology. How are you using technology and data in this situation?
Yeah, so I think, technology is becoming increasingly important, and having the key contractual terms that have been negotiated available so we can run reports from a contract management system and have those, right in our fingertips versus having to do research and, dig into thousands of contracts. And also, having the flexibility and the knowledge of the team to know where to go to respond to any inquiries we have from internal stakeholders or from suppliers.
Yes, and I guess that you are very busy getting all the questions because of the uncertainty, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, the questions range from force majeure to, shortened payment terms. Some suppliers need to be paid faster right now. And I would just encourage everyone, now is not the time to be pushing suppliers to 90, 120-day payment terms, because if they're providing a critical service, a critical good, or critical technology to your business, you want to demonstrate your vested interest in them succeeding, because that is also part of your success.
Yes, you are right. In this moment, we cannot pressure, right, on cost reduction, extending their terms if what they are supplying is critical, because now the availability has become a more important factor than cost reduction. That is a traditional metric, right?
Right.
Yes. And how are you working and leading a team remotely? Because one aspect is to work remotely, as all of us or most of us are doing right now. Mm-hmm. And something different is to lead a complete team remotely.
Yeah, so great question, Marcia. So I've been leading a remote team for just over 5 years now. So I have people that report to me on every continent. And just being human, Having that human connection with each person is critical. Being available, so you have to be flexible in your schedule. Working in every time zone around the world can be demanding, but just knowing that, you're there to support them, listen to them, adjust priorities as need be is really critical. Use technology. It doesn't always have to be Zoom. It could be a text message. It could be a quick cell phone call, and let them know that you care. And that's important no matter what the circumstances are, in my view. And treat them, as humans, treat them as leaders, because they are the ones that are solving the tough problems. Always have their back, be supportive, and then be a sounding board if they run into issues with suppliers or with internal stakeholders, because without them, the company will not be running.
Yes, no, it's so important what you are saying. In particular, as you were mentioning, to be available, to be supportive, that's the key. And personally, I don't know how you are doing everything, because I know you're leading a huge organization with many responsibilities in these times of uncertainty, many challenges, and you have your family, so you're a spouse, mother, so congratulations on how you're doing.
Yeah, sometimes we need to have a glass of wine at night.
But great. And what is the value that supply chain and procurement can bring in these times? How can everyone see the importance of procurement and supply chain? And I remember that in the first answer you were mentioning that listen to stakeholders more. So how can procurement and supply chain deliver value?
Yeah, I think the value is multifaceted, and technology plays a big part, listening plays a big part, knowing your suppliers and listening to them, because oftentimes your suppliers may see things very differently than the internal business may see it. So don't just, throw their opinions or throw their ideas out the window. Really listen to them. Connecting across the value chain, because so often people think of supply chain as direct materials or manufacturing environment or warehouse and distribution. The supply chain touches every aspect of the organization. So I like to use the word value chain, because without the technology, without the infrastructure, without the key services, the supply chain and the distribution cannot run properly. So, just connecting all of those pieces, having those check-ins, regular check-ins. So similar to managing, a remote team, regularly check in with your suppliers. Just do a pulse check. How are they doing? Is there anything that we can be doing differently, to support your business, that we can collaborate better? Because we will be on the other side of this pandemic, in a month or 2 months' time, whenever, it's safe for us to return to, normal. I don't think we'll ever go back to the normal we knew, but, I think it's just like I said, don't underestimate the basics. And the technology is key. Data has always been important, but I think data is becoming increasingly important from an enterprise risk management perspective, knowing where your supply chain sits, how it's mapped, and what your contingency plans are. If something were to fail, where are you going to go next, or how are you going to collaborate with that supplier that cannot fulfill, a good or service for you.
Yes, data, and as you were saying, also automation, right?
Yes.
Because we need to have these changes so fast that if we are slow, then it won't be successful.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And,
Speed is critical. We can't underestimate the speed, and I think that's what all these countries are realizing. The supply chain and what we do is increasingly important. So they may have said, oh, it's just procurement, oh, it's just supply chain, they've got their agenda. Well, guess what? Our agenda is the company's agenda, and we are enabling everything that the company does. So it's really an exciting time. You know, it's unfortunate that, you know, we had to be in the spotlight in this type of environment. But I think it's exciting. The data, the innovation, the automation is going to become increasingly important as we move forward.
Yes, yes, exactly. And also, I have another question when you were mentioning about procurement, supply chain, that there's a tendency about thinking about procurement direct materials. But how about indirect? That is so important, right? Because sometimes we have the packaging in indirect, but they cannot ship without a box, right? So they are, and the services, what opportunities and how can you describe the importance of indirect procurement?
Yeah, so I have a lot of experience in indirect. You know, I have some past experience in new product planning and Lean Six Sigma, but indirect is a beast. It's all of the things that people don't think about and take for granted. So it can be employee benefits, it's the technology, it's the Zoom, it's, you know, your laptops, it's all of those things that are taken for granted and are very important, you know, whether it's in marketing and sales, whether it's in research and development. So, you know, supplier consolidation is key. So you can really leverage those key strategic partnerships with suppliers, because if you have 1,000 different suppliers providing laptops, you'll never be able to track anything down. So I think this is an opportunity for people to evaluate how the supply chain is mapped on the indirect side, to really consolidate, to leverage, you know, those relationships, and also benchmark. You know, the best and brightest companies, they didn't get it right the first time or even the second time. But if you can learn from how these companies with a very agile, automated, lean supply chain have done it, you know, I think everyone can learn. And I'd say in our space too, there are so many great publications, there's so many great blogs and podcasts, such as this one, Marcia, that we are a very collaborative community and we can learn from everyone. And I think now is the time for all of us to step up and to share so that we can all improve our own organizations and businesses.
Yes, yes, exactly right. And so great insight, that because indirect sometimes is not like the first image that we have about procurement, and it's so important. There are so much spend how to manage, and as we are saying, without managing properly, the direct part it has an effect, so they cannot ship, for example. So
yeah, the analogy I use for direct versus indirect is like a spider web. It's got so many tentacles that just continue to spread. So the spider just keeps spinning the web, and direct is much more contained. And it's easier to map because you know who is supplying it, you know where it's coming from, where it's going. Indirect is one that you have to be patient, you have to be disciplined, you have to use technology, and you really need to have good people and leaders managing the categories.
Yes, that's perfect. That's perfect. So, Jill, thank you so much for all your insights. It was a pleasure to have you on the show. I'm confident that what you are saying is so helpful for other leaders and also for all of us, right? Because it helps us to stay positive, to use this to turn into the best possible outcome, right? We know that the situation is very hard, but it helps us, it pushes us to deliver more and deliver better. So thank you so much for taking time to participate.
Yeah, thank you, Marcia, for sharing all your insights and, you know, bringing the guests on your show so we can all improve in our important trade right now.
Thank you, Jill. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.